And yeah. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Liam Talks Motorsport channel. Today, I've got a very special interview lined up. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. And today I'm going to be interviewing somebody who, considering her age, has done some pretty cool things. That's all I'm going to say. She has done voice acting work for Assassin's Creed. She's done acting work, um, some child modeling, and in interest to this channel, of course, she is one of the many young presenters, along with myself, that are coming through the ranks. Of course, co-hosting F1 Juniors. So, welcome, Scarlett Archer.
Thank
Oh,
you. I'm very excited to talk all about Formula One. And I think, I've been waiting a while to speak to you, so it's very exciting.
yes, indeed. So I wanted to start in a way, not necessarily with F1. Obviously, we'll sort of move on towards F1 towards the end of the interview, but. To be honest, I'm more interested to hear how you actually got into the industry in the first place, the entertainment industry, because I know that you've done some acting, you've done some child modeling, and you've
Yeah.
also done presenting. So how did you actually get started in the industry in the first place?
Yeah, well, I've managed to be able to do like lots of different things because I've done like acting, as you said, modeling, like voiceover work, and most recently stuff to do with like Formula One. But when I was really young, my mum just put me into like stagecoach because like I think lots of kids were doing it. So that was like stage productions, and I really, really enjoyed it. And then I think I started doing like little kind of like commercials and little things like modeling, and I ended up doing like stage productions like Joseph and Jesus Christ Superstar. And I just like I loved it. It was my favorite thing to do, but my mum didn't really think much of it because I think at that age, like little kids have so much confidence. You can just like go on the stage and do whatever. But then I started doing little roles and I got a job on not Assassin's Creed, on Murder on the Orient Express. As like a pauper child. So that was interesting. And I really enjoyed doing that, and I just kept doing like little bits of acting and things, but it wasn't really anything that big. And then when lockdown kind of broke out, I couldn't do any acting and I was really missing it. So I started to do these like Shakespeare plays online. And Sky News saw that I was doing them and they asked me if I wanted to do like a video diary about the whole process. And I was like, oh, it's going to be something small. It won't lead to anything. But I did that. So I recorded like, getting ready for it, like practicing my lines and then actually going out. And then it went out on TV. It was only like a couple of minutes. And then like a month later, um, I went back to school, and in all the classrooms it was freezing cold and we weren't allowed to wear like any coats or jumpers, and our teachers were sat there in like coats and jumpers bundled up with like hot coffee, and I thought it was really unfair. So I asked if I could do a report about that. So I did that, it went out, and then I was sat at home one day and the director phoned me and he was like, do you want to introduce Boris Johnson to a press conference and be like part of the show? And I was like, okay. And then that was like the first proper job I did. And I was like in shock because I never thought that like, well, I knew that like kids could do things, but I didn't think, someone as high up as like a prime minister would want to even have anything to do with like a kid. So I was like blown away. And especially as my first job, I was like, I have a lot of faith in me. And then they said, because I live in the north, they were like, you can just do a couple of reports in the north. But now I've been filming like every single week since then. But then I got into Formula One because like growing up, my dad always watched Formula One and all my like family in Canada, but I was never really that into it because I watched it and I never saw any girls. So I was kind of like, it's not really for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
But I did watch it and like I enjoyed it. And then there was talk about like, oh, it'd be good if they could bring kids into Formula One to like make it a bit like more fresh and inspire more people to start watching it because it's such an amazing sport and there's so much to it people don't realize. It's not just
yeah.
driving around a track, there's so much to it. And then when they started talking about it at Sky, I was like, I'm just going to start watching like all the races, start making notes, really getting into it so that I have like the best chance of getting involved. And then when the opportunity came up and they asked me if I liked Formula One, obviously I said yes. And I like jumped on it. And then I got to go to Budapest. So that was amazing.
Yeah, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask later on, actually. But you mentioned about your Canadian ancestry. What's pretty cool is that every single country that you have ancestry from actually has a Formula One World Championship because obviously Canada has Jacques Villeneuve, of course,
Yeah.
1997, and Gilles Villeneuve probably would have won one at one point, and of course you've got Lance Stroll currently on the grid and formerly Nicholas Latifi, two world champions from Italy, the first two Giuseppe Farina and Alberto Ascari, and of course most recently Giovinazzi I think was the most recent from
You
Italy.
know so much. It's crazy. Like
Thanks.
when I'm like doing my commentating, I'm trying to keep all the stuff in my head, but you know so much. It's like, oh, I can't believe
Thank,
it.
thank, thank God for photographic memory. It is a gift. Um, and then Germany, of course, that's the ancestry we share, I suppose. Different parts of the country, of course. Sebastian Vettel, Michael Schumacher, Nico Rosberg. Um, and England, of course, which has actually got the most Grand Prix winners out of anybody in
Mhm.
the entire Formula One. So, and did you mention about Poland? About having ancestry in
Yeah. So
Poland?
my mum was born in Germany, but she grew up in Canada, but her mum is Polish and German, and then her dad is Italian. And then I'm also a bit Scottish because my dad's Scottish, but he's not that excited.
Eh.
He
So,
he loves any excuse to wear a kilt anywhere. If it's like any special event, he's in that kilt taking pictures with people. Like he loves it.
so you basically got my ancestry and my girlfriend's ancestry combined. Do you have Irish
Mixed.
ancestry at all?
I don't.
Ah, okay, right. So you've got two-thirds. You got like most of my ancestry, most if not all of my girlfriend's ancestry, and then even more added on to that. So that's absolutely amazing. But yeah, Poland's never had a world champion, sadly. But I don't know if you know this, but technically there's only ever been one Polish F1 driver, but there's actually been two others that were born in Poland, because there was one
Really?
that was born in. Hang on a second. I'm googling. I don't remember exactly where one of them was born, but I
Mhm.
think it was near. And I'm definitely gonna pronounce this wrong. So when my girlfriend sees this, she'll be like, "Oh, there's Liam pronouncing it something wrong again." Um, uh, yeah, so one of them was a guy called Adolf Bruds, and he was born in a
Mhm.
place called Kotelin, which is in sort of the south of Poland. And then the other
Mhm.
one was a guy called Hans Stuck. Now he was a very talented racing driver before
Mhm.
World War Two, and his son actually raced with guys
Oh.
like Niki Lauda. And he actually got two Formula One podiums, Hans Joachim Stuck. So he was a very, very talented driver.
Mhm.
But the thing is think about Esteban Ocon's height, right? That's
Mhm.
about how tall Hans Joachim Stuck is.
Yeah.
And because he drove in the 70s, and because of the danger of Formula One, he decided to leave the sport, and it was good because there was a lot of leg injuries back then.
Oh.
And so he decided to race in touring cars, and he was amazing in in endurance racing. And he was amazing in that, and he's in his early 70s now. So he was sort of in that time period between Germany having like
Yeah.
a guy called Wolfgang von Trips who actually opened a karting track, which Michael Schumacher and Ralph Schumacher raced at when they were younger, and then obviously Schumacher beginning his rise. So then that sort of time period in the 70s and in the 80s, there was him and a few other guys.
Mhm.
So yeah, your family background is pretty cool, to be fair, because like you've got sprinkles all over Europe, and then even a little bit in North America
Yeah.
as
I
well.
think it used to be really helpful when I was younger for like acting and modeling jobs because they could cast me for like so many different roles because they never no one ever knew like what ethnicity I was. I got like Syrian, Spanish, like di all different ones, especially when I go on holiday, I get really tanned and I used to come back from holiday and they'd be getting me for all different kinds of jobs for like Indian and stuff and I'd be like I'm basically just English, but okay.
Yeah, yeah, because it's like I don't I was watching one of my old TikToks, and it was like I didn't realize how tanned I was last year in Tenerife, and
Yeah.
it's like, and funnily enough, I'm pretty sure that's the first time I ever actually watched you, because I think the
Yeah.
Hungarian Grand Prix would have been on during that time. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And you've already pretty much answered one of my questions, which was how did you actually start with F1 Juniors? So yeah, so and you sort of mentioned about the voice acting and the acting work you had done, but um what kind of other things have you done apart from that thing in the Murder in the Orient Express where it was cut, which was pretty
Yeah.
annoying. What other kind of stuff have you done?
Well, I was on a YouTube series for 3 years called Kiddy Zuza, and it got like 65 million views a month. But then with that, yeah, it was really fun. It was like so fun. I'd film in like first it was in Cambridge and then it was in London, but that was really exciting and like it was part of my life. But I do miss a lot of school to do all the stuff that I do. So that's
Yeah,
sometimes a
yeah.
bit of a negative. But with Kiddy Zuza, I did something called Kiddy Zuza Land, which was like the animation. So I played like two different characters on that. So that was fun. But I mean, I've done like modeling bits. I've done lots of like short films, and I just did a couple episodes in The Bay, which is on channel.
ITV, I think it is.
Oh yeah, ITV. It's on ITV. You know more than me. The thing is, I don't like watching myself back. So when things come out, like my
I
mum
am
or
the
someone,
I am
oh,
the exact
like,
same.
yeah.
I'm
Like
the
every
exact
Saturday
same.
on the news, when I come on, I hear my voice, I hear the intro, and I'm like, I'm going upstairs. No. And my mum's like, Scarlett, you need to watch, just see, any improvements. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it. But I mean, like within Sky, like working for Sky, I've done so many, like I've had so many amazing opportunities. Um, like I went to Poland when the war in Ukraine first started, and I went to the border between Ukraine and Poland, and I did a whole documentary, and that was like really interesting. But I've also been doing work with Eon recently, and Veloce about like e-racing, which has been really cool. And like I think it's important to show that, motorsport obviously is like bad for the environment, but there are ways around it, and it's such an important sport that you have to live with that. And there's so many things that people are doing that you don't realize.
Yeah, yeah. And do you know what's mental is that my girlfriend's family are from like Lublin, which is actually near the border. If I actually go and Google Lublin right now, it's not far. It's not actually very far from the border with Ukraine.
Yeah.
So there was one time Amelia was telling me that they'd actually like there was bombs which were nearby, and they
Mhm.
didn't know if it actually came from Ukraine or if it came from Russia.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's not just people in it's and this is the only time I'm ever going to compare these two wars, but it's similar with Palestine, where it's like the countries around them are getting affected,
Mhm.
and the whole world's getting affected by it, and
Yeah, it's not just the people in Ukraine that are getting affected. It's everyone. It's affecting civilians, it's affecting neighboring countries, and it's really scary. And like when I was there, I just felt horrible because I can't do anything to help.
yeah,
And like a lot of the people coming over the border were like mothers with their children because the men had to stay and fight. And my mum like takes me everywhere to film, and I just kept imagining like if I was in that position, and it was so like eye-opening. It was really sad.
yeah, it reminds you of like when back in the day when ships used to sink, they'd always get the mother and the children first, and the fathers would always be the last ones to get on board, and it's similar to that with war.
Mm.
Because unfortunately, m most women don't go into the army because of stereotypes, and that sucks.
Mhm.
But I suppose that's going off on a tangent, and that's for another time. But yeah, it's pretty interesting to hear about the stuff that you've done, because obviously, by contrast, the main things that I've done have been for my channel. Haven't really ever been on the news or anything like that. And you mentioned about the Boris Johnson thing. The best thing I've ever done in terms of politicians was I met the person who is now the First Minister of Scotland, John Swinney, but I met him when he was just an MSP.
Oh wow.
So because he's the MSP for my local area. So actually, I think it was in. I'll see if I can get a photo up of it, but it was in. I think it was November. I actually
Mhm.
went in and met him. Um, it was
I
something.
had an interview with Hamza Yusuf when he
Yeah,
was in power, and that was really interesting. But I'm really interested in politics. Like Formula One and politics are my favorite thing. They're
yeah,
very different, but like they're my favorite thing. I mean,
yeah,
with the upcoming election, who
yeah,
knows what
yeah.
can happen.
Sometimes they do converge. Yeah, so here's the photo. It was 27th of November 2023. I don't know if you can see it very well because of the lighting, but like
Oh
that's the photo
wow. Where
yes.
is that?
So that's what was my former school, because as you know, as of yesterday, I've officially left school. Woohoo!
I wish I was as well.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of school, but yeah, the fact that you got to do all that stuff, meeting Hamza, meeting, introducing Bojo, that kind of stuff is just crazy, and like, the opportunities that you've had, considering, you're
Yeah.
16, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Feels weird.
I've interviewed Boris twice, but then I interviewed Keir Starmer. So it was really interesting to
Yeah.
see like the two parties and like their different ideas. I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, and I mean nowadays their ideas aren't so different. I mean, as you know,
Yeah.
I'm a ranter of politics on my Instagram, but yeah. Now to move away from politics and now to the main thing which we have in common, not politics or our ancestry, and that is of course Formula One. What have your thoughts been on the Formula One season so far?
Well, I think it's definitely been an interesting season. I mean, it's got the same drivers as last season, which is quite unusual. Like they're all the same.
Yeah, that's
But
never happened before, which is
no.
crazy.
But I think that like a lot of them are really fighting because there's like I think 13 seats up for grabs, and
Yeah.
no one really knows what's going to happen. I feel bad for Carlos, like really bad. I really like Carlos. But isn't there news about him going to Williams? I heard about that.
I have no idea, to be honest. I mean, the only
Yeah.
way I keep up with the rumor mills is through one of those Instagram channels that I'm in, and that's how I'm able to hear about the news about, everything that's going on. But I mean, honestly, Carlos Sainz, for all we know, I mean, it's a bit like, as a Man United fan hearing about Man United rumors. It's like this player's linked with Man United, and you're just like, that's not gonna happen. It's like there's all these rumors that are happening, and it's like, can you give me an actual source for this, please?
Yeah.
It's
I know, like you
like
never know what to believe.
exactly,
But I
exactly.
think I'd like to see Carlos maybe at Red Bull. I think that would be really interesting.
Well, I mean, I did send you my predictions a few months ago. Off the top
Yeah.
of my head, I can't remember all of them, but I think I did predict Carlos Stewart to Red Bull.
Yeah.
But I think that would be absolutely crazy.
Mhm. And yeah, I mean, I just feel bad for him because I think he's a really great driver. And he just seems like I met him in Budapest and he was really nice. And it's like he is such a talented driver. But I mean, he won in Australia. So I
Yeah.
was really happy about that. I mean, is it because he got his appendix taken out? We don't know. Maybe that made him lighter. So that's the only reason he won, but I don't know about that. But then we had I was so happy when Lando won in
Yeah,
was it Miami?
I was streaming it, and annoyingly my microphone broke, and I just tried to be sort of so I had to use my USB camera, my audio, that's why I have another microphone now, and I was trying so hard to be like unbiased about it, but I was just so happy for him because
Yeah, I think everyone was happy. Like, I
yeah,
think you can't not be happy because I think Lando, even like and Oscar have worked so hard, and the McLaren has like really stepped up. Like, I think that it's like it was kind of a bit lower down, but I think they've done so well. And I've been going to McLaren like a couple of times, like this year, and I've been to the McLaren Technology Centre, and you just see the work they're doing, and it's amazing. And I'm just so happy for Lando.
yeah, yeah. I've been, if you've watched Oscar through the junior series, then you know how good he's gonna be. I mean,
Mhm.
I would compare it to the young fella in F2 at the moment, Kimi Antonelli. If you keep
Yeah.
an eye, this is why it's good to watch the feeder series, because you can sort of try and get like told you so rights over people, by going, oh, this guy's going
Mhm.
to be an F1 race winner, this guy's going to be a
Yeah.
flop in F1, or this guy's going to be an F1 champion, and you can have a look at it, and it's entertaining to watch, not only, but you can also look at the
Mhm.
stars of the future and the people who are going to be
Yeah.
in Formula One or in other
Yeah.
motorsport series in the future.
Mhm.
And
I
then
think that
as
Oscar's really amazing and like he's so young. I mean, there's no rookie drivers on the grid this season, like they're not rookie anymore, but I really think he's amazing. And I think that he really has like just a talent for it. And I think he's quite like quiet and reserved compared to Lando, but
yeah,
I think he's incredible.
the funny thing is that, I mean, the main thing that Oscar talks about isn't even his driving; it's probably his ancestry these days on
Yeah.
Twitter. Or the main noise that comes out of the Piastri household is his mum on Twitter. So,
Mhm.
what was that one
I was
thing she
gonna
put out
say
back in the day
there's
again?
there's an F4 race that I'm going to in June because there's someone who lives like where I live and they're racing in it. So I think that's interesting
Is that
because
is that British F or is that GB4? Because there's two different
well,
F4
it's at
series.
Silverstone. What is it? Do you know? No, I don't know. I only found out
Well,
like yesterday, but I thought it'd
hang on a
be
sec. I'll go and quickly look it up. You said it was
it's the
still
15th and 16th at
15,
Sil
16th at Silverstone. Yeah, yeah, it's British F4.
yeah,
So yeah, I
really
know,
exciting.
I know Abby Pooling, as you probably know. So I'll be I've been cheering her on this year, and in F1 Academy and
Yeah.
in British F4. So, and I'm actually going to the not the round after that, but the round after that in Knock Hill, because I'm going to do some content potentially. But that's not officially confirmed in the pipeline
Yeah.
yet. So
I had
you
an
can,
interview with Susie Wolf about F1 Academy, and
Yeah,
like that was amazing. And the drivers there were just incredible. Like you don't realize, you just kind of think, oh, F1 drivers are the best, but these drivers, they were just amazing, and it was amazing to see like so many girls taking part. And I think for me, something I really want to see is like a girl on like the grid soon, I
yeah,
hope. Like
yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
It's like that old euphemism, if you can't see it, you can't be it to be. I think that's what it is. And it's a shame that there isn't a lot of female diversity in the sport. We haven't had a Formula One driver, a female F1 driver, qualify for a race since 1976.
Wow.
And what's actually crazy is that she was also Elio Lombardi. She was also the last openly LGBTQ driver, I'm pretty sure. Well, not
Mhm.
open, but the last LGBTQ driver, I'm pretty sure,
Yeah.
to start a Formula One race, unless I'll go and quickly fact check that just so I'm not saying
You know
anything.
what's
Yeah,
funny,
yeah,
just so
that's
I
true.
don't
That
forget.
is true. That is true. Yeah.
You know what's funny? I yesterday I had my English language exam and I wrote about Formula One and because I didn't know what to write. And
Yeah.
everyone told me what they'd written about, and it was all this like and I was like, they were like, what did you write about? And I was like, Formula One. They were like Scarlett. It was about writing a review of an event. I was like, Formula One is an event. And I
That
wrote
yeah,
this
that
like
that
full
I
review.
mean you can write about that, you can write about Formula One as, in some sort of way. Like for example, in my apps of maths for my apps applications of maths assignment, I used the results of the average race results
That's
of
so
Jim Clark
smart.
and Ayrton Senna
That's
to
so
see which one
smart.
was better. Because obviously they let you pick your own projects for that, and that was the only thing I really made about F1. So that was pretty cool. And I really like managing to turn that sort of stuff. But to go back to sort of the thing about inclusion, I mean, the last woman to take part in a Formula One race weekend was, of course, Susie Wolf, in terms of in a
Yeah.
Formula One session. And then the last woman to try and qualify for a race was Giovanna Amati back in 1992. So it's been a long, long time. A lot of things have happened in the
Mhm.
last 32 years. I mean, most of the grid wasn't even alive back then,
Mhm.
which is crazy. I mean, the reigning world champion in 1982 was Ayrton Senna. So
Mhm.
that's how long ago it was. And even then she didn't qualify. So, there hasn't been a woman driver in Formula One since that's qualified since the 70s. There hasn't been an openly
Yeah.
LGBTQ driver in F1 since the 1970s. Both of them being the same driver, which is quite crazy.
Mhm. And
Um,
I think it makes, like if you're watching the TV and you don't see any representation of yourself,
yeah,
it discourages you. But then if you think about just motorsports in general, there are so many things for so many different people that if you don't see it on the TV, it's hard to imagine yourself, actually doing it and being there.
yeah. Just to let you know, we've got like 9 minutes of the meeting left.
Yeah.
So, and then if we don't get it done in that time, we'll start another one. But yeah,
Okay.
you're spot on. Because I'm obviously a neurodivergent person, I try and, see if there's anybody in the motorsport space that is neurodivergent, and there's not many. I only found out recently about Formula Two driver Rotolo Miata, and obviously you kind of have to be unbiased, but
Mm.
I'm rooting for him,
Yeah.
obviously, because I've never ever seen a neurodivergent racing driver before, and so that amazes me, and it inspires me. And part of the reason why I want to become a commentator and do some of the things that you do is because I want to inspire other
Mhm.
neurodivergent people and say, just because you have disabilities, it doesn't mean
Exactly.
that you can't pursue your dreams.
if
And I'm
you
sure
if
you
you have
feel
a
the
passion for
same.
something if you have a passion for something and you have a talent for something, then there's nothing stopping you, and that's exactly why I want to do it, because I want to show all young people that it doesn't matter your age, it doesn't matter how young you are. If you have a passion for something and an interest, you can do it. And I really hope that from commentating, I inspire other young people to watch Formula One. And I think that if you've never watched Formula One before and you just go right into watching like the adult broadcast, it can be so confusing. Like,
Yeah,
it's so quick. But then I think that's why it's good that there's the kids option as well, because we explain it in like a
baby
more like friendly
terms.
way. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think I mean,
yeah,
we've even had like adults say that they like the kids one better because it's just easier to watch. But it's good that there's still like the adults one and the kids ones. They are
Yeah,
separate, but
yeah,
yeah,
there's a choice. But yeah, I mean, you say about young people, but also girls as well, because there's not a lot of
yeah,
female commentators in Formula One.
definitely.
There's Jenny Gow, there's
Mm.
Rachel Brooks, there's Natalie Pinkham, Naomi
Mm.
Schiff, Bernie Collins yourself, but there's not.
Naomi Schiff, she always has like the best outfits. Every time I see it, she's always in
Yeah,
like really cool
yeah.
outfits.
Yeah, I think she's borrowed her fashion sense from Lewis
Mhm.
Hamilton, maybe.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
have you seen the photo of him in Monaco? Like you can see his like his naked chest and like what he's
Oh, I saw
wearing.
that. I saw that on
Yeah,
Instagram. My mum
yeah.
showed me. I was like,
He wears the coolest like
mhm.
most like outlandish clothing. But
Mhm.
yeah,
I got to do the
pretty cool.
like pen interviews after commentating, and he was one of the nicest drivers there. Like
Yeah.
in the media pen, you're only meant to have like two questions, maybe even one. And he was like, "Do you have anything more to ask me? Like, don't worry." And I was like, "Oh, because like I feel bad
Aw,
for them because after they get out their cars, they get
they're
rushed into there. They're
hounded.
dripping in sweat,
Exactly.
like they're dripping. They're like." And I'm like, can I ask you a question, please? But they were all so nice. But you know who it made me laugh was Fernando Alonso walked in like a supervillain.
He is
He had
so
like his little,
cool. I
I
love
know he had like a
him.
sippy cup. He walked in, he was like, and I was like, hello. It was really funny.
Yeah, yeah. Fernando seems pretty cool. I mean, yeah, I mean, from what you can tell based on, public image, etc., most of the drivers are pretty cool. I mean, I can't imagine like, this is like a sort of driver's, race day, and that is get up early in the morning, go to the track, prepare for the race, do an interview in the pit lane, do an interview on the grid, get in the car, drive for, up to 2 hours, potentially in extremely wet conditions or extremely warm conditions or anything in between, get out the car, interviews.
It's just go, go, go.
Exactly. It's like,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously there's the
And
podium and everything, but I mean, I do not know how they do it. They're superhuman.
yeah, and the thing is, they don't get a rest. Like after the race, they have to keep training. Like they
Yeah.
don't ever get a time to just relax because they have to stay on it or they're gonna fall behind.
And that's something, I have massive respect for all athletes in that sense,
Yeah.
especially, if I had to say like the two fittest sports people, I'd say people that are in motorsport, racing drivers and footballers and maybe even rugby players as well. Because they have to be so fit, they have to have a really good like rest and heart rate
Mhm.
and everything. It's incredible like how fit you need to be to actually um like actually do that stuff and compete in sports, and you just got to have massive respect for them, even
Mhm.
if you don't think they're very talented. They're still very fit and able to do something that you wouldn't be able to do. I mean,
Yeah.
there was this sexist comment I saw on the BBC Sports announcement of like who was doing the Euros, and what one absolute moron commented, "Oh, who's Ellen White?" And I was like, and I commented, the second highest England goal scorer of all time, and he was like,
Yeah.
"Women's don't count." And I was like, "Mate, you'd probably have a cardiac arrest if you were, running at the pace of the women's game." And he's like,
Yeah.
"No, I wouldn't." And it's like, these
They
people
don't realize the work. It doesn't matter if you're a boy or a girl, you have to put so much work into it
exactly,
because they don't realize how many people you beat out to get into that position, and they'd
exactly.
never be able to do it. They'd never be able to beat her. It's
It's
stupid.
because it's about having the combination of mentality and
Mm.
fitness. And it's like, all these people, it makes me think, about Darwin's theory of relativity, or theory of evolution, sorry. And it makes me think maybe some people still are, right at the beginning of that
Yeah.
stage, and they still haven't grown to the human
Mm.
stage, and they're still, I make fire with rock and that kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, some people are just ridiculous. But
Yeah.
I think I'll probably know the answer to this based on what you've said earlier. But what do you think has been the best race of the season for you anyway?
Miami.
I knew you were gonna say that based on what you were saying about Lando.
Yeah. I
Um,
mean, I think he just did an amazing job. And like as I said, I think not even just McLaren, but I think every team, every race was happy for him because he's so deserving of it. He's worked so hard. He's so young, and I mean, it was just incredible. So it has to be Miami. But I'm very excited for Canada because obviously my mum's Canadian, and I'm
yes.
looking forward to that race.
Yeah. And I always look forward to Canada as well, not because I have any ancestry there, but because it's just it's such a good race. It's one of the few
Yeah.
street circuits is actually entertaining on the calendar, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's been a staple of Formula One since 1978. Funnily enough,
Hmm.
Gilles Villeneuve was the first driver who ever won around there. Obviously, the circuit's named after him nowadays. And Canada is, in my opinion, one of the best tracks on the calendar, and it should never be. The only time it should ever be removed is if there's safety problems, in my opinion,
Yeah.
because the only way that track is not going to be suitable for racing is if the F1 cars outgrow the circuit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So yeah. And I wanted to ask, what do you think is going to happen this weekend in Monaco? I'm going to try and get this video out today. Going to try and get the editing all
Okay.
done today. So hopefully this will be in date and won't be released after Monaco. And
Yes.
neither of us will look like clowns. So yeah. What are your predictions for Monaco?
Well, I was meant to be doing the commentating for the Monaco Grand Prix, but my GCSEs mean that I can't. But I'm really, really hoping for Charles Leclerc to end up at least on podium.
Yes.
But I mean, he's
Yes.
had bad luck at the track. It is, I think, one of the most difficult tracks, and he has had bad luck. But I mean, he is the king of Monaco. Like, he needs to be up there. So I'm really hoping Charles Leclerc, Lando again, and I think Verstappen's going to be
Yeah.
up there. But I'm
Yeah.
just really hoping, or maybe Perez, Verstappen or Perez, one of the Red
Yeah,
Bulls.
because Paris has always been very good on a street circuit,
Yeah,
and he's always been good around Monaco. I don't know if you know this, but he actually used to hold the lap record around there. I'm pretty
yeah,
sure, from like 2017, I think it was. And he finished
mhm,
on the podium that year as well. So he's very good around Monaco. Although he did have a big crash in his earlier days,
yeah,
which meant he missed a race through concussion, I think it was. But yeah, Leclerc's luck around Monaco has just been dreadful. In F2, he retired in both the races. In 2018, he had a brake failure. 2019, Ferrari screwed up his qualifying and he ended up starting 16th, went for a dive bomb into Rasgas, retired because of damage. 2021, crashed in qualifying. His team didn't check the parts on the car and he ended up not being able to start the race. And 2022, I think he started on pole, didn't he? And the
mhm,
Ferrari screwed up the strategy and he ended up finishing fourth and Perez won the
mhm,
race. And in 2023, what happened to 20? Honestly, my mind is like a goldfish at this point.
mhm.
He probably qualified a little bit further back and he finished like third or fourth probably, but I don't even remember honestly. Last
Mhm.
year's so forgetful for me apart
It's
from
just such bad luck. But I mean, maybe now that he's got his ice cream out, he can eat some of that before, get loads of energy, and then just win the race.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the Kimi Räikkönen clip of him eating ice cream in Sepang. Have you ever heard of that? Um,
I love Kimi Räikkönen though. He's
yeah,
so
yeah,
funny.
yeah. I
So
mean,
funny.
yeah. The meeting's probably going to cut out any second now, but I'll try and
Yeah.
quickly explain the story. So in Sepang one year, there was a red flag because of how wet it was, and during the break, Kimi just went and pulled out a Magnum, I think it was, from the fridge and just ate it while he was waiting for the
Have you seen the
restart.
one where he like didn't finish the race and then he like walks
Went
off
onto
and
the
gets
yacht
onto
in
his like
Monaco.
yacht or
Yeah,
something and then just
yeah.
goes, oh. And then have
Yeah.
you seen like where was it? He's like they ask him why he picked the number and he's like, I
Because
don't
it
know.
was yeah, I like that one. And then I think who I don't remember who it was, but they were like, I'm on. There we go. I think we're back. I think we're back.
Yes.
Yeah,
There we go.
so you were saying about 1 year with Kimmy. What was it you were saying? Because you mentioned about the yacht. What were you gonna say?
Well, he was because so yeah, he didn't finish the race, and then there's just like a sped up video of him walking, jumping on a yacht and like
Yeah,
sailing
and
off.
then there was him
Wasn't
picking
it?
the
Was it
number.
Charles Leclerc who wanted this
I
number?
think it was Leclerc.
Yeah,
Yeah,
16, and then Kim, they were like, Kimmy, why did you pick it? And he's like, I don't know, it's just the first one I
yeah.
saw.
Charles wanted seven. He ended up having to pick 16
Oh,
because Kimmy
seven. Oh
had
yeah.
it.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
And he was like, I don't know. Is
yeah.
it okay, by the way, if I post pictures, or do you want me to wait until you do and
Oh,
then I can read?
I'm absolutely fine if you want to post pictures
Okay.
of the interview. Hopefully all the audio is perfect for it. If not,
Yeah.
then it'll be a bit screwed. But I mean the good thing is I've got it recording, so hopefully even if
Yeah.
the audio is bad, I'll find a way. So now that I've asked you about the Monaco Grand Prix, I wanted to hear your thoughts because I don't know how much you know about Ayrton Senna, but what are your thoughts on McLaren's special livery for him this weekend, and also the special helmets and all the tributes recently
Yeah.
for him.
Well, I think it's so important and it's just so like respectful that they did it. And I saw them doing like the race around the track, which I thought was amazing, like all in
Yeah,
the
Seb.
t-shirts. I
Seb
mean,
helped
yeah.
organize that.
I got to sit in Ayrton Senna's old car at Silverstone when
Yeah.
because Sebastian was going to drive it around. But I think, I mean, it's something they kind of like, they had to do because, you know, he was incredible. Like he was an incredible driver. He shaped motorsports. And, you know, it was important to mark him and to mark Brazil. So I think it was so important. And I like it as well. Like not just because it's for Ayrton Senna, but I like the colours. And I
Yeah,
think it's like
yeah.
it's a really cool livery. But I just think it was like really important and really respectful. And I think that Sebastian driving his car was like I thought it was really like it was really cool, but
Yeah.
it was really important. And then them all like running around the track, I thought it was quite like emotional because it was like them all coming together.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, first of all, can I just say I'm very, very envious that you got to sit in Ayrton Senna's car. The
Well,
and
you know what I said? I just went, oh, it's like sitting in like a dentist chair. That's like the first thing I said. And Sebastian was like, and I was like, well, it is. It's like sitting in because I'd never sat in an F1 car.
I,
And I was
I
like, oh,
I don't know. I don't know. I know we're going off on loads of tangents here, but I don't know if you've ever heard of a driver called Tony Brooks who was nicknamed the racing dentist.
mhm.
He actually was the first time he ever actually drove in a race car. He got a call while he was in dentist school in Manchester, and he had to get permission from his principal to actually go and drive. So that's
Oh
pretty.
my gosh.
And yeah, he actually won that race. It wasn't an official F1 race, but it was what they called a
Mhm.
non-championship race. And then obviously later on down the line, he was teammates with Sterling Moss, and he was a brilliant driver. But yeah, that's for my thoughts on it. I think it's really cool. Oh, I forgot to give my predictions for Monaco. I
Oh
forgot.
yeah,
I
you
forgot to.
gotta get that.
I forgot. By the way, I just want to say very quickly. My favorite race of the season has also been Miami for the same reasons you said. My predictions for Monaco. I'm going to be really boring and say Max will win. I think it could be a repeat of 2021, which is Max first. I think it was Lando second and
Yeah.
Carlos third. I think it could be a repeat of that.
Oh, that, yeah.
Because I think the car performance is, you know,
Where do you think Charles will come?
I because of his Monaco curse, I think something's gonna happen to him during the race.
Yeah.
Um,
I
but
hope it doesn't, but I
yeah,
think
yeah,
it will.
fingers crossed it doesn't. But I mean, who knows? Honestly, Formula One's a very interesting sport at times.
Yeah.
But as for the Senna livery, I thought that I think that like there's a lot of tributes going on, and I think that some of it is slightly I mean I think that obviously it's 30 years, it's a big occasion, but I think there's a lot of tributes going on. I think maybe they're idolizing him a little bit like a god in a way, but
Yeah.
because I was having this discussion on Twitter, but the thing is, it's like the guy took. I mean, if you get his career stats up off the top of my head,
Mhm.
65 pole positions, 41 wins,
Mhm.
in 161 races, I think it was. Yeah, those kind of stats are just incredible. And I don't know if
Mhm.
you've heard all the stories about his wet weather abilities, but
Yeah.
his 1984 Monaco, 1985 Portugal, 1993 Donington, 1991 Brazil. There's
Mhm.
so many drives that stick out in your head in the wet weather that they just make you think, man, that guy was a demon.
He's just so skillful. Like he doesn't even seem real.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if I had to describe one driver in the grid who I think is most like Senna, I wouldn't actually say Max. I would say Charles Leclerc because if you look at Charles Leclerc's one lap ability, I
Yeah.
think Charles Leclerc, and this is gonna get clipped for eternity. I genuinely think Charles Leclerc is probably the best one lapper in Formula One since Ayrton Senna,
Mhm.
even better than Hamilton, because Leclerc has done some incredible things in cars which shouldn't have been doing so well in
Yeah.
terms of qualifying ability, and his qualifying ability is insane.
It's
Like,
like when he knows he has
mm, there we go.
to.
Okay, yeah. So, where was I, or where were you? I don't actually
Charles
remember.
Leclerc, he's like
Yes.
really good at just kind of like stepping up when he needs to and then like
Yeah.
making.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I wanted to sort of, have a combination in Formula One and other things in our interview. Um, so, are there any other sports apart from Formula One that you're interested in?
Well, I don't love like group sports, but I like individual sports. So, my one of my favorite sports is rock climbing. I've been rock climbing since I
Yeah.
was like really young. I've done like some competitions. And my dad used to do mountaineering, so I've kind of just like grown up like rock climbing and bouldering. And I live really close to the Peak District, so when it gets sunny, like we always go out and we climb in the Peak District. So I love rock climbing, but I actually get a bit scared of heights, which isn't that great because sometimes I
That's
climb up
really
things.
ironic. That is really
Yeah, sometimes I
ironic.
climb up things and I look down and I'm like one time I was in the Peak District and I climbed up so high and then I got on top of the rock and my dad was like, okay, come down now. And I was like, come down. Like, I just want to stay up here. I'm fine. But I love rock climbing and it's like a really good sport because it exercises like your whole body. It's really good for you. Um, in the summer, I love paddle boarding. Like, I love paddle boarding. Um, yeah, I like paddle boarding. I like swimming. And I used to do diving. Um, I like being active because I have a lot of energy. So if I'm just like sat at home, I get stressed out. So I like to always be doing something. But because my family is Canadian, um, we go. My dog's air tag is making a funny noise. Go on, Bella. Go. We have an air tag because we always lose her, because she runs away, so we have to track her. But I was saying, because my family is Canadian, um, I like doing ice hockey. Like my auntie builds an ice rink in her garden, and we do it there, and that's really fun. So yeah, I like those sports.
Yeah.
Obviously, go-karting as well. I love go-karting.
Yes, yes. In terms of like sports, I'm interested. As you know from my stories, I like football, darts,
Yes.
and Formula One mainly. I was watching the darts last night. And
Luke
the
Littler did so good,
I
like
know.
amazing.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's so weird, like knowing that we were both born in like the same, like within like a year
Yeah.
and a bit of him. It's just crazy. Like
We're
this
not
guy.
like as a family, we're not into darts. And I'd come downstairs and there'd be darts on the TV. My parents would be sat there like, this is amazing. And I'd be like, we've never really been into darts. They're like, you've got to watch it. Like, come on. And we were all sat there watching it because it was just so
Yeah,
impressive.
yeah, yeah. And that sort of leads me into what I've got anyways, my last question. And that is, and I suppose I've got another one to add to this because obviously I found out about your Polish ancestry, but who do you want to win the Euros? England, Italy, Germany, or Poland? Or Scotland? Or Scotland?
Well, last Euros, when it was England and Italy, I was thinking, oh, I want Italy to win. And then when they did, I got really upset and I cried. But so obviously I'm
Confliction.
more English than Italian, but I think it would be England, Italy, Germany, no, because now there's Scotland. Maybe it's England, Italy, Scotland, Germany.
And then Poland, right at the back,
Oh yeah, I
obviously.
forgot about Poland and Poland. Yeah, they can be in there as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, for me, there isn't a priority. But if it makes you feel better about the Euros final, the day I have my prom is the same day Germany plays Scotland, so hella awkward because I'm probably going to be the only German person in that building. So if Germany beats Scotland, I'm going to be just thinking an awkwardness, you know.
You're like,
But
oh,
yeah.
what do I say?
Yeah, because it's it's very very conflicting having them both in the same group and you want them both to do well. But in terms of my predictions for the Euros, I think that out of all the countries, I think you've got a good bunch with Italy, Germany, and England.
I think
Po-
they're all quite strong.
Poland and Scotland, not so much. We don't really.
That's why they're at the bottom, more at the
Yeah,
bottom.
yeah. I mean, they're probably less likely to do well. I mean, it'd be a miracle if they managed to get any further than like the last 16. But yeah, if I had to say who I think will do best out of those three, I would say I am going to be really biased here. I would say Germany on current form
I'm gonna say
or
that I
Deutschland.
support and want to win whoever ends up winning. I'll be like, oh, Germany won,
Yeah,
yet they were the one that were at the top of my list. Italy, they
yeah,
were at the bottom.
yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, yeah, I cannot believe like the amount of family connections like you have. It's just mental. But yeah, thank you very much for this amazing interview.
Thank you.
You've been a wonderful guest. Hopefully all goes well with the recording.
Hopefully.
So and hopefully it'll be out by today. I just need to make a thumbnail for it and everything. And I've really enjoyed this interview and I've really enjoyed speaking to you because you've given some very good insight into, how you've gotten into the industry and anything. One final question, and this is a very, very boring question because everybody asks it to everybody, but if you had to give advice to young people on how to get into the industry, what would you say?
I would say that you just have to have confidence because if you're not confident, sometimes I'm not confident on the topics that I'm speaking about, like could be something to do with politics or something that I've never really heard about. You have to have confidence or you're not going to come across well because sometimes, I doubt myself, but then if I have confidence, it comes across in a good way. And also, you have to make sure that you're always prepared because like preparation is key. Like I'm sure before this interview, like you had to come up with the questions. You can't just think of them on the spot. So I think preparation, because you don't want to go on TV or whatever you're doing and look stupid because you know what you're on about. So if I have a topic, I always research it before. And then I think lastly, I'd just say like throwing yourself into it, because opportunities don't come up a lot. And if you don't take them as soon as you see them, then they might not come up again. So just giving it all you've got and not being upset if it doesn't go how you want because you just got to move on. Like I go for so many auditions, I could go for 100 and get one of them, but you can't get upset about it because it can be down to something really small that they didn't like about you. So it's just about being confident, preparation and just throwing yourself into it and doing your best. That was quite long, but I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
it was
that's a
it.
really good answer. I'd probably say the same thing, I mean, both of us speaking from experience, I mean, I got my writing gig by applying and I was speaking to somebody about, and obviously going off on another tangent here, but it's to do with, the whole idea. I was speaking to somebody about how they managed to get so many interviews, and they just said, I message literally all of the drivers
Mhm,
in like Formula 2 and Formula 3, and hope that they reply.
mhm.
It's not necessarily about just thinking, oh, I might leave the door open a little, but you gotta slam the
Yeah,
door open and you
yeah.
gotta go,
Just give it your all.
hello. You have to be like that, you
Yeah.
have to and you have to market yourself well as well. You
Mhm,
have to, even if you absolutely hate talking about yourself or hate, hearing yourself like we both do. I mean, I have to when I have
mhm.
to edit my videos, which is
Yeah,
annoying. Um, even if you hate that side of it, you have to be good at marketing yourself. You have to
yeah.
be able to, say,
You have to
I've
be able
done
to do
this.
everything, basically.
Exactly. You have to have the gift of the gab in a way. And I suppose that comes hand in hand with presenting, I suppose,
Mhm,
because if you're good at presenting, then you're quite likely anyway to be good at presenting yourself.
mhm.
Just imagine it as if, you're another person that you're talking about, basically.
Exactly. Mhm.
So yeah, um, really, really good advice. And I don't know if anybody watching will take that on board, and I mean, hopefully they will because
Hopefully.
there are people watching who might be, younger. So I mean, it's good that we've kept good language and everything. I mean, obviously we
Yeah,
we have to be used to that. But yeah, thank you so much for the interview,
it's okay.
Scarlett. And I haven't interviewed very many people I haven't really done any interviews in a long time, so it's been a while, bit rusty, but as you could tell with the microphone problems earlier. But thank you very much for the interview, and yeah,
Thank you very much. I think you know so much about Formula One, and it's been an honor to speak to you. And hopefully, maybe we can have another interview in the future. If I do
yes,
more
and
commentating or something.
indeed, maybe we shall meet in the F1 paddock and doing
Yes.
an interview in person and not over Zoom, and there won't be limits over the time. But yeah, thank you very much, Scarlett.